Welcome to another episode of Evergreen Spotlight, where we illuminate the remarkable hosts behind your favorite podcasts. Today, our spotlight shines brightly on Sleepover Cinema, hosted by the dynamic sister duo, Hannah and Audrey Leach, co-founders of Two Pink Productions. Join us as we delve into their insightful discussions around what truly makes a movie good and the delicate balance between nostalgia and critical analysis. We'll discover the hidden gems of the 90s and 2000s that shaped a generation. First of all, I love that you two are sisters. And Hannah and Audrey, if you could just take us back in time, like where this love for watching these movies in your sleepovers started.
Yeah. It came from the minivan, I think mostly, like in its purest form. We had a Toyota Sienna minivan when we were kids, and it was so fancy to us because it had a DVD player in it. And like, I don't think either of us expected to ever be spoiled in such a way. And like, I remember when our parents pulled up with the car, I was like, what? Shook.
Like, you mean we can watch shows and also like travel? Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah.
And then so we had this like Apple.
It was you know the box you get from like apple orchards that it's like long and rectangular?
Yeah,
Apple box. So
we used one of those to put all our DVDs in, and just that is where I feel like that is where the basis of Sleepover Cinema like sprouts from, is that.
Yeah.
And we had lots of sleepovers with our cousins. So I think it's kind of the combination of like watching movies in the car and then like friend and family sleepovers that like creates the bond over that specific type of film, essentially.
I enjoy going back through like on your website, like seeing the two of you like together. Like there's one picture that I love where I think, Hannah, you're on the computer and Audrey, like you're next to her. And I feel like it's just such a foreshadowing of your lives now. Like how did you know that you wanted to work together in this capacity?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. I think that, so Audrey and I have a 2-year age gap. It's actually 23 months. I'm July 26th. She's June 26th. And pretty much our whole lives, we've like always gotten along. There's maybe like a tiny bit of beef when I was like in middle school and she was in 5th grade or something, but like that makes sense. But like we chose to live together at college. We've always been like close. So I think that when it came about, I was like looking to have a podcast on Evergreen's network, and that's like a whole other story. But I was like, me and Audrey could do this. Like, let's just do it. And Audrey had never done any hosting or anything. And we just started, and she just did a great job. And here we are now, all these years later.
How did you guys like take the next steps on that? Like, let's make a podcast from our synergy together.
Well, COVID did have a lot to do with it. Without COVID, Sleepover Cinema wouldn't exist, which is kind of an interesting thing. So basically, I was living in New York, and then COVID hit and everybody kind of left the city. Like if you could leave the city, you were going to leave. So I went back to Ohio in March, like 4 is that right? Yeah, 4 years ago now. Like right now, like practically to the minute. And Hannah kind of mentioned that Evergreen was looking for podcast ideas and that you had kind of put together like a list of ideas or something like that. And then you were like, you just told me that you like pitched it basically like, and I was like, oh, okay, that'd be fun. And then it kind of just became this thing of like, we're going to try this. And we just like recorded the first season in deep COVID times in Hannah's apartment. And then it just never ended. It just keeps going because it turned out to be something that we could sustain and that like people were engaging with. That, I mean, we didn't know what to expect, but we've found like an audience of like-minded people.
Yeah, definitely. Hannah, way to take that opportunity to like, you know what, here's the idea that I have and we'll just go with it.
If there's one thing I will do, it is that in general. So thank you.
What are production days like now for you guys?
There's many different levels to which we could answer that question. Audrey, do you want to describe it from your POV or should I?
What are production days like? Sometimes we have episodes like planned way out in advance. Like if there's a guest, like we know and can plan for what's going to happen. But then other weeks, we kind of are just like, what do you feel like watching? Like what, like what's the vibe for this week? And I like that we record in real time every week instead of doing like batch recordings, because when I listen to podcasts who do batch recordings, you can always tell that like they're living through the same week. Like they're in the same mental headspace. And I really that's like a huge pet peeve of mine when they're trying to like get it all done at once. Like some podcasts will just record their entire season in like 2 weeks or something. And then I can always tell when I'm listening back. Yeah.
It shows. Yeah.
Like for a more like specific answer, normally how like each episode will work is like a couple days in advance, we will decide on whatever the thing is, and then we'll either watch the movie or like re-listen to the album or whatever we need to do and like take a bunch of notes on what we think. And then I will put together the like outline for the episode, all the like information. And then sometimes, maybe this shouldn't go in, sometimes when you're talking about like My Little Pony at 11 a.m., like you may need a little something to loosen up the screws. And sometimes that will happen, but not very often, if you know what I mean.
11.
And then and then we record, and then after that Audrey edits all of the video. So it all gets sent to her and she does all that. So like I do the front and she does the back pretty much.
Yeah. I love that. And I love honesty and telling us really what it is that works for you. So thank you, Hannah. I love that. And speaking of, you know, Audrey, with your background being in TV and film, and then Hannah, yours is mostly in writing, like how do your differing perspectives, like how does that shape your perspectives of the shows and the movies that you're watching?
Well, I'm always coming in with the like film analysis, and then Hannah's usually like, this sucked.
Like the script, like, right? Like, is that kind of,
I think that also over time, it's evolved a bit where like, I think at the beginning, that was definitely how we approached things. And I think now, like Audrey is someone who's very, very immersed in like the daily down to the minute, like updates of pop culture in the film world. And I'm just not. And so a lot of the time she will be able to contextualize things for me where I'm like, who the hell is this person on Twitter? Like, I don't know what I'm looking at, and just tell me. And then on the other side, I have a lot of experience teaching kids, like of all age ranges, but especially middle school and high school. And so I think I have some stuff to bring to the table in terms of like how the media could impact kids now or like impacted us when we were kids. So I think our perspectives have kind of like expanded to cover more than just what's like on paper.
Yeah, I feel like will sometimes depend on you to bring the like psychological or social take on the whole thing. And then I will do more of like how does the craft of this film like translate to today? Like, does it hold up? Like, etc.
You don't have to get into your personal issues, but how do you leave out your personal issues with like working? Because I can imagine working with my sisters would be a totally, I love them, but maybe frustrating experience. Like, how do you guys navigate that?
I have an answer to that question.
Okay, go ahead.
So I actually think personally that we've come a really long way, even just since we started season 10, because we did this one thing, which has been so helpful, which is that we separated out all of our. So normally, like before this, it was like if we were texting, it was going to be about the show, like most likely. even though we text all the time, like every day, but what we decided to do was to do all work talk in GChat and all non-work talk in iMessage. And that has been like such a oddly huge game changer, at least for me. I think it's been good for both of us.
Yeah. Because like literally we would be messaging, like we're both typing. It's like, it was so chaotic. Like we're both typing at the same time, talking about like 3 different topics at once. And one of them is work related and the other 2 aren't.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So it's been a way to like, it's just funny though. Like if now it's funny because like we'll be texting on iMessage and then I'm about to say something show related. I'm like, God, like, I guess I gotta pull up the other thing.
But that's good because it kind of puts a barrier. You know, there's a little bit of a boundary around what it is that you're talking about to each other. Good tip.
I think also when you are like contractually obligated to interact with someone on camera for hours every week, like it's just nice to have that built in, you know, because we're friends just as much as we are collaborators, if not more of friends, and that is like important to like give priority to also.
Yeah. And I feel like that would be helpful because it's so common for podcasters to be friends because it's chemistry, like that, like that makes sense. I feel like that would be really applicable to anybody who has any friend or sister duo or whoever that has a podcast, like to separate out the personal and the work.
Yeah.
I would love to go into like a rapid fire round because your podcast is based off of like, are these movies actually good? Like, I love that in your introduction of the show. And so I'm just going to like name a movie. And if you guys could both just like kind of quickly, like, is it good? Is it bad? Underrated? Like whatever comes to mind for you. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. First one, Napoleon Dynamite.
Amazing.
Excellent.
The best.
Okay. Amazing. So you guys agree on that one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Bend It Like Beckham.
A little underrated.
Underrated. I wish
but I haven't
was
seen it that much.
Yeah, same.
Next one, Titanic.
I love Titanic so much. Like, this is the year I came into acknowledging the fact that I fucking love Titanic. It is so good. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't judge a masterpiece. Like, when we covered Titanic, it was just basically like
what do I even say?
It was like, let's just get this one. Let's check this one off. But like sometimes when we are judging like the masterpiece films of all time, it's like, what are we doing? Like,
right.
Shut up.
Like, what we have to say means like hardly anything, right?
Yeah.
Like that's probably the feeling.
Right.
Yeah. Hunger Games.
Oh, shit.
We just did this.
Today.
And I may have listened to this episode specifically. Okay. So,
Hannah, what do you think?
I think it's for the book readers. For the book readers. But I'm happy for them. Am I one of them?
Hannah doesn't love it as of yet, but there is time to improve on this facet of your personality. I love it though, but I did read the book and I was involved like a decade ago. So I think that's what makes the difference.
And you are more of the reader, right? Between the two of you, Audrey, you'd say.
Yeah. Well, I do read more, literally, but
it's only what I've heard. It's only what I've heard on the show.
Well, I'm an audiobook listener and I do listen.
It's not like Hannah doesn't indulge in books, but like the literally reading, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
No shade whatsoever.
Honestly,
I promise.
You can be shady. I deserve it. It's totally fine.
No, I'm definitely not a critic. That's for sure. Last one, and it's one of my favorites of all time, is Return to Oz. What do you guys think of that one?
Oh my God.
It's one of my favorites. I call people like like the wheelers. I'm like, that person's a wheeler.
Yeah.
I love that that's one of your favorites. It was just as weird as actually, you know what? It was even weirder than I remembered it being. I think it's really cool.
It's kind of like funny that we covered that movie because it almost feels a little outside of our realm, but like, I'm glad we did. But I just like I wish I had more nostalgia for it because I think then I would have been I would have liked it more, I guess. But there's so many things to appreciate about that movie, and we did.
Yeah. I would love to talk a little bit about your brand. You guys are so good at that. And I would love to just know like what your standards are as far as your brand goes and how you carry that along and what you could say to other podcasters about really coming up with and then staying within their own brand.
That's an Audrey.
I would say, yeah.
And it is Audrey, right? Because you do a lot of the editing on the video and the photo
She
side.
does it all.
Right?
That's all her. I just get to benefit.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Well, to be fair,
I write
am like
the copy, but
yeah, and I am like a control freak, so like it's not like you could do it even if you wanted to.
That's tea.
Yeah, I like have that gene almost to like an extreme extent. Like it's just, if something that we've posted or like the grid, for example, the Instagram grid, like if you actually went to our Instagram and scrolled down it, you would see like an insane level of
you would see the neuroses on display. Yeah.
And I've actually in this season tried to like fight myself on it a little bit and be like, it doesn't all have to match perfectly because sometimes, I mean, this isn't even helpful for other people, really. This is like, because I'm so crazy. Like sometimes a singular post will get more engagement, like if it doesn't look overly curated, like certain meme formats or whatever. But because I just have this thing in my head that's like, but I want the grid to look pretty. I'm like adding all these colors and things to like memes, which I really have enjoyed doing. But I feel like in general, there should be like at least one post, like maybe like your first post for the episode of that week, those should all be consistent with each other. And there's like certain aspects of your social media that should always be consistent. But I could honestly benefit from like being a little more
taking
loose.
it down a notch.
Not going for the A, going for the B, right?
Yeah, just because like engagement, I mean, it's an interesting question. Like I've yet to really see in the long term, like how that would affect engagement, like caring less about the perfect aesthetic. But that's kind of like what I'm going through now. But for the past like 9 seasons, I was just like, no, I need it to look perfect.
It does look so good. And you guys have even like expanded into merchandise. How is that going for you? And how, like,
I'm wearing
you're wearing something that's available.
Yes.
Tell us all the things. Like, how do we cross over into the world of merchandise?
So we have made a friend through the podcast. Their name is Joey Donatelli, and I'm like very good friends with them now. But we met just through the internet. They're a listener, and they are a professional merch designer for brands that are like oddly well aligned with ours. So for example, like Trix, like their main gig is designing for Trixie Mattel, who's like this very highly visible, very famous drag queen. And it's like a very similar brand to us. And then they've done a bunch of other work, that it just felt like they were like plucked out of the universe and like put into our lives a little bit. And so they came up with all these different ideas, like a ton of different, drafts of different items and stickers and everything. And we just collaborated with them on it. And then Evergreen obviously was supportive of it too. And, now we have sweatshirts, shirts, pens, hats, stickers, earrings.
Pen. Did you say that?
I think I said pen. The pen is really cute, actually. I have one right here. It's a puff pen, and then
it is cute.
It's cute, and then it says Sleepover Cinema on it.
I love that. It's very cool. What are some of your guys' like, if you had to really speak to that aspiring podcaster now, what are some words of encouragement or advice that you would give them?
It's tough because it's really saturated. Even when we started, it was saturated. It's not like we started in 2006 or something. But I feel like you kind of have to not care about numbers especially in the beginning. Obviously, if you're somebody who has a built-in audience yourself, then that's great. And it's going to be easier for you to just get a good base going. Like I edit some other podcasts for a different network and like have kind of seen that on the back end. Like if a huge TikToker starts a podcast, it's like, all right, this is going to be kind of easy for them to build like a listener base of like, I don't know, they'll start off with like 500 downloads a week, which is like pretty solid as a beginning point. But if you have like no personal audience coming with you, then you just kind of have to not care about being immediately successful and just like be consistent instead. And then just like care about engaging with the people who listen. And I feel like that's kind of all you can do. But like caring, I feel like just caring is like the most important thing.
I was going to say that too. Like, would you still want to talk about this if no one was listening and you were alone and it wasn't a thing? You know what I mean? It's like maintaining passion for it and like wanting to have these conversations is really important, and just being consistent. I mean, I'm really lucky in that like Evergreen and I have had this ongoing relationship for so long that like there's some structure through that. But then also like Audrey is, as she said, very like intense about work, which to me is a good thing. Like she balances me out really well, because when she said that she's a control freak, I'm like the opposite. I'm like, just take it.
So
like,
maybe it's a good balance, right?
Yeah. So I think finding someone who is equally committed but will fill in the gaps where you have them is obviously, that's like a very lofty goal. Like that can't happen for everyone, but if it could, it'd be worth prioritizing.
I would also say to like, don't do a podcast by yourself. Like in most cases, like I edit a lot of podcasts where it's somebody alone talking to themselves, and I see and I feel the desperation in their eyes. Like it's tough.
Wow.
Like it's tough. And
like in their eyes.
I like that advice though. I think it's like really valid, because you're just like, does anybody hear me? Like, does this make any sense to anyone else?
Yeah.
Like, am I crazy?
Yeah. And they'll like start talking to the producers. I'm like, these producers are not on mic. Like these people are not your co-hosts. Like you gotta like figure it out.
Amazing. I love that. Well, thank you both so much for being a part of this episode.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
For all of you aspiring podcasters out there, remember to stay true to your voice. Embrace your different opinion and never underestimate the power of a good VHS collection. Be sure to check out our lineup, our shows at evergreenpodcast.com or on your favorite podcast app. I'm Julie Holliday. We'll catch you on the next Evergreen Spotlight.